A lot of history here in this meat event slot, UFC 258. Gilbert Burns taking on Kamaru Usman, and it's nice that Burns is finally getting a first crack at welterweight gold as he takes on his former training partner Kamaru in a fight that was originally scheduled for about 6 months back. Uh, the corner of Burns all got COVID, and Masvidal ended up stepping in and just really getting bodied by Usman over 5 rounds. A non-competitive fight, so it was good to see that Burns is getting this second opportunity, and it wasn't taken from him as a result of those COVID complications. But looking over at Tapology, unsurprising numbers, truthfully, 69% going with Usman. Majority thinks he's going to pick it up by decision. 31% going with Burns, and I was interested to see the tiered 31%, pretty balanced, almost 10, 10, and 10 as to whether Burns gets this done by KO, submission, or decision, because it does seem as though Burns might possess more pathways to victory in this one. If Usman does get the nod on Burns, I think it's likely just a dominant decision. I don't know if Usman's going to be able to finish Burns, but Burns has that sort of wide array of potential breakthrough abilities against Usman, and he is someone who was his training partner for a long time. These dudes have sparred hundreds of rounds with each other and probably know just the fine intricacies of each other's game. So I'm really excited for this 170 showdown. Who are you going with, Kamaru Usman or Gilbert Burns?
Yeah, this is an absolute great fight. Fight for the hardcore fans. Snoozman and Burns, they aren't the biggest household names, but the hardcores, they know these are the two killers of the killers in this division. I mean, these guys are just far from skillless. These guys are at the top of the pinnacle, and it's really hard to pick because Burns, since he's moved up in weight, he's just been looking like a train that cannot be stopped. He's been just running through people, looking stronger and faster and hitting harder than ever. Let's not even talk about his jiu-jitsu level game because he hasn't even implemented it. He's just been knocking people out, which isn't even his specialty, and that's scary because this guy's just been growing, getting better and better. But so is Usman. I mean, Usman's been really showing that his hands can rip. He was performed versus Colby and versus Masvidal, like you said, and dominant performance. Great fight versus Colby, very close on that one, but still got the job done, TKO. But I'm going to have to go with Usman. I think Usman is literally a nightmare to be reckoned with. And I think he's just on another level. I think he's on that Israel Adesanya, that John Jones, that Khabib, that GSP level. And I think he's a future GOAT in the making. But this is a hard level test for him. And I'm very curious to see this on the ground. Because Gilbert Burns is no joke wrestling and no joke on the jiu-jitsu. We saw him absolutely manhandle Tyrone Woodley, toss him around, taking him down. Kamaru Usman has 100% takedown defense. Nobody has ever taken him down. If Burns can, that will just be a statement of itself. And if he can dominate, Burns, it's going to be absolutely insane. The whole MMA community is going to go wild if Burns does a dominant performance like he has been. But when has Usman not had a dominant performance, right? The closest was Colby, which Colby has only done dominant. So I could see this being another Colby 2.0, but maybe a little bit even crazier. I see this being a pretty tough fight for both these guys. But we both know both of them don't quit. But yeah, this is just gonna be such a close fight, such a good fight. But I'm going with Usman with Tapology. I really like Usman in this one just because he's the champ and he's done nothing to make me think otherwise that he's not gonna win.
Yeah, I kind of want to just pick up on what you mentioned about Gilbert Burns and how he has just this amazing grappling pedigree that we haven't really seen in a while. Like when he first came in the UFC, he was getting wins by submissions. He submitted Christos Giagos and Alex Oliveira, but since then he sort of just picked up this amazing striking craft and has been flatlining dudes. I mean, he KO'd Jason Sago, KO'd Dan Moret. We were at that one. And he picked up a TKO against Damian Maia and has a lot of decision-dominant wins in between there with one additional submission over Mike Davis. But he's a former IBJJF no-gi world champion. He's the gi world champion. Like, he's got some insane grappling credentials. So just like you mentioned, I'm very curious to see what this looks like on the ground because Usman tends to get on top of you and pin you there just with some amazing wrestling, amazing ground control. But will he be able to do that to someone with the grappling credentials and ground handiwork capabilities that Gilbert Burns possesses? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. Usman's one loss was against Jose Caceres. It was to a rear naked choke, and granted that was in 2013. He was, it was his second professional fight, but the only time we've ever seen Usman appear mortal, besides in those close rounds against Colby Covington, was against Jose Caceres on the mat. So will be interesting to see how this one goes. I'm with you though. I picked against Usman last time, and I got to say I learned my lesson then, because it's just tough to pick against this dude. Until I see him, in a fight where he's getting dominated, like it's gonna be tough to really pick against him. And that Colby fight really taught me a lot about his heart, because he was potentially losing that fight, and it was very encouraging to see the stand-up game still be there in the 23rd, 24th minute of a title fight. You want to see that from a guy, never quitting and finding a way to grit out a tough victory. Because if he's dominating every single fight, that's one thing, but when you have to dig deep and really go to that next level, like Izzy did against Kelvin, that shows a lot about the fighter's heart, which is something you can't teach. And I think Usman's going to find a way to grit this one out against Gilbert Burns. It wouldn't surprise me if Burns maybe drops Usman and maybe has his moments, but I see Kamaru finding ways to recover, deal with a potentially early onslaught, and then use his power and strength to win ultimately a decision. So how do you see this one playing out? Do you see Snoozman getting the job done via finish? Marty Fake Newsman just dominates in a decision. How do you think he gets the win?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be decision. I think it's be. If I had to guess, just like any other Usman fight, I think it's gonna be very convincing. Decision unanimous. And Usman did leave, the camp and team that him and Burns were both on. So Burns is still there, and Usman might learn a new, a thing or two that Burns isn't ready, and Usman knows that whole side and what they're teaching. So I can't imagine Burns has anything new to display. So it's going to be one heck of a battle. But yeah, like you said, Usman has crazy heart, and we really haven't seen Burns go through, the ringer. He hasn't been tested yet. So this is going to be a great test for the both of them, and we'll see who's got the bigger heart really in the end. But yeah, no, super excited for this fight. Can't wait.
Yeah, super exciting stuff, and it's actually two of the best coaches going against each other too, right? Henry Hoof taking on Trevor Whitman. So this is just a technical masterpiece and just a hell of a meat event in an otherwise interesting main card, to put it plainly. So Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman. We're both going with Kamaru in this one. Appreciate you checking out these vids, boys.